Hey, Bill.
So you're gonna miss out tonight, Bill. What the hell happened?
Thank you.
What's that? So you're gonna miss out.
Yeah, I figured
Bill, I couldn't walk
yeah, you just fall off the wagon, yeah.
Tried to call you to congratulate you, but I don't have your frickin' number.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I got your brother's, I don't have yours. I was gonna call
That might
him.
be a good thing.
Don't give it to him, though.
All right, we'll start with the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're calling a public hearing for the adoption of the 2026 Yates preliminary budget. That hearing is starting now, 5:30. So the notice of the public hearing was published on April 14th and posted in the town hall and on the website. The purpose of this hearing is to present the budget to you all if you haven't seen it yet, and then have public comment. So for those, I was just going to do a quick briefing on the slides, but I just handed this out. If you want to refer to it, I'll just hit a couple of highlights. So from the current year that we're operating, the second page is the summary of the budget for management of 2025. Give you some fun facts, and then as you can see under the total reserves, we're still very healthy, but we do have some remediation still of the A fund. It's somewhat masked because of the cemetery fund. We moved the cemetery fund into the A fund because that's where the cemetery expenses were being paid. So that made sense, but it's still an A fund that needs a little bit more remediation, but it's definitely on the right track. We did make over $26,000 in NICLAS, and we do have one more month, although most of the money now has been spent that was invested there, so we won't make much of a dent into the NICLAS investment. I double checked the thing about the mowing. I think we budgeted $3,300. You had said that it was
28,000.
so I said 4,000.
Oh, I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
okay.
So I have that next line just to summarize. Our home, or the town's insurance went up $4,000, but it was offset by the mowing contract, which went down roughly the same amount. And so far, we've not spent the contingency fund. So all these things, I think, factor in. We also have several revenues still coming in before the end of the year. But like I said, it's tracking well. We're going to remediate a little bit more on the A fund. The other funds look very healthy, but you don't know until it's over. But it's tracking well. And then for this year, what you saw in the preliminary budget, if you didn't have a chance to look at it yet, this is the basic bottom line. The raising of taxes was 2%, so we stayed under the cap. And the tax rates are indicated. It's a 6 cents inside the village and 8 cents outside the village increase per 1,000 assessed value. We're having a spirited investigation into reviewing alternative health insurance policies because 2 years in a row we got hit hard for our employees, for the town, for the taxpayer. That was 16% expected this year, effective January 1st. Last year was 18%. So in the process of going through that, we're going to have whether we can review and get the insurance policy that is comparable and less costly in place before the vote on the budget is questionable. But we're certainly going to talk about that at the workshop here after the public hearing. I think the only things that we've done some tweaking of the preliminary budget are we're still working on the union contract, and we were very close on that. Well, I guess I would say also, and thank you, Joanna, for that update, there's a couple tweaks that go on across all of the funds on Social Security and Medicare and things like that. So those pluses and minuses that we have adjusted that are slightly different than the preliminary budget are probably not noticeable, but they are there. It's literally plus or minus $500, I think, really, right? Is that fair to say? So I forgot to add, I was gonna add another bullet there under union contract, we're working on finalizing, we also had some tweaks since what you saw in preliminary and what's been posted on some of the social security lines and some of the Medicare lines. This budget proposal does add stipends for clerk duties for water and cemetery, and we thought we were gonna have some, within the fiscal year, some push back from Medina on the ambulance contract. That got tamped down pretty quickly by the three towns, Shelby, and Yates. But we know that they've already started looking at 2026 when we have to renew that contract. So talk about that as well. So those are just some summaries. And for the public hearing, just as a reminder, if you would just make any comments you have to the board, not to each other. We'll be quiet, I'll try to take good notes, and then when we get to the workshop, or as we close the public hearing, I can comment, or any board member can comment on your questions or your comments, and then we're gonna grapple with them as soon as we get to the workshop anyways. So with that, who would like to speak and comment in the public hearing? I'll start with Paul.
At the last meeting, the difference between having the taxes flat or having to go with a 2% increase was about $32,000 that you would have had to find to trim out of the budget. How have you done with that? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Anything left over, of course, from this year's goes into a reserve account. And my figure is right, the budget was, appeared to me that the revenue side of it, you had about 57,000 more than the previous year. And I just want to know if my figure is about right.
So I need a clarification. You're saying on the revenue side?
The revenue side of the whole picture, yeah. It looked like we were about 57,000.
For the amount to be raised by taxes?
Yeah. No.
I can answer your question by Paul's. It's roughly 32. The last year budget was right around 1,030,000. I don't have the exact figure last. It's a 2% increase. We have to keep under the cap. Otherwise, we have to vote to exceed the cap. So that's about the 2% increases based on the size of the budget and the amount to be raised by taxes. So I'm not sure. Maybe at some point, Bill, you can point out separately from the public hearing where you found that 57, because I am curious if there's something.
Yeah, I'll dig it out in a second here.
Anyone else?
I just did the math. The difference from last year to this year is actually 28,430
Thank you.
increase. Yeah.
And I had some place that said that too. It is a hard budget for me to figure. I mean, Shelley helped me the other day with it a little bit. Because I haven't seen one like it yet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And thank you, Joanna. Anyone else?
I just have one more question. Is there any chance that you'd mentioned something about looking at health insurance alternatives or something to that effect? Is there any chance of that getting the budget down to a flat
There is
rate?
a chance, but I think it's going to be a tight call. If we don't vote on the budget by November 20th, then the preliminary budget that you have before you becomes the final budget. So I don't know that we can get to a final decision. We're going to talk about it right after this public hearing about health insurance. It would impact the three highway guys as well as two other full-time employees, and so we would have to go through that process. And if we determine that we're going to come up with a new health plan before the vote on the final budget, then yes, it would definitely have an impact on the final budget.
Is the union
I might as well answer the other question you had. So if there's leftovers, the reserve does kind of take that on, or if it's a negative reserve, it helps offset that. And they're specific to each fund. So the general fund, or let's say DA, the highway guys, or DB, those funds, if they have left over in each of the itemized accounts, typically get rolled into the reserve for that. We tally the reserves, that number I gave you in the beginning, 756,000 roughly. Those reserves are tallied on the last day of the year, and then starting in January, we know exactly what the impact is on any monies unspent that would go into the reserves. So that answers your other questions, since I'm answering questions. Any other questions?
Is the,
Yeah.
is the collective bargaining contract, does that have anything to do with the, partially with the increase, or
Say again?
the collective, the contract, right, you're in with the union right now? Is that, if you can mitigate that a certain way, would that have any effect on the tax rate?
If we get a signed contract that goes one way or the other, you mean?
Yeah, you know, if it,
Yeah, so the contract, we're still working on it. We're very close. If it's, since it's not signed, we can't divulge those
Right.
negotiations because there could be something that changes. But once it's signed, you know, conceivably, let me answer it this way. Conceivably, we would have a resolution that we, both the town board and the union has had a chance to review the final wording, and the board could authorize me next Thursday at the board meeting to sign the contract. So it could be put in place as early as next Thursday. And I think part of your question is, if that goes a certain direction or another, let's say, would we then be able to incorporate that into the budget? And the answer is we've already incorporated the numbers into the budget that we've been analyzing. However, that does not count the health insurance. The health insurance is not something where we have incorporated that into, we've incorporated the 16% increase into the budget because that's what we have to do for now. But any other increases to the highway have been incorporated into the preliminary budget, and if we get a signed contract, then that would solidify that that's what the raises that they need to go. So, is that fair summary?
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. I'm looking at Joanna and Shelley, and have been very helpful, and Steve, especially with this insurance, health insurance discussion. It's been very, very good and very helpful. So, Bill, you were going to say something?
So if there was a big difference, it would just roll over to 2026.
If there was a big difference in what?
If the health insurance did take place, and there was a lot of
Great
money
question.
left over.
Great question. We just had that conversation. If it's kind of like several scenarios. One is if we pass the budget between now and November 20th without any changes to the health insurance, then that's the budget. If between when we pass the budget and make it final and we have to sign up for a new health insurance policy, which would be by January 1st, then the savings would apply to the town budget and to the employees, assuming it's all comparable coverage,
Right.
but not to the taxpayer this year. I just had that question asked, and I didn't have a chance to look this evening, but I'll look in the next day or so, and I'll share it with the board, as to whether you're allowed to amend the budget after you've adopted it, but before you start the fiscal year. I think there are some constraints to that. That would be nice. If the health insurance plan changes between now and, let's say, mid-December, then we can incorporate it. Otherwise, then if it goes like the sequence I just described, then it might not. We might not vote on the budget,
Right.
you know, and agree on it. But if we agree on it and then we say, okay, well, now we have this savings, then that first year of 1.6, under the new union contract and under the new health insurance policy, the savings would apply to the bottom line for the town budget and the bottom line hopefully for the 5 individuals who are getting a less costly policy. And then in 2027 and beyond, that insurance savings would be rolled into the budget and would result in a lower amount of be raised by taxes. Sorry, it gets a little convoluted, but you're nodding and that makes sense? Okay, great. Anyone else? All good questions. Okay. Like I said, these are the things we're going to talk about as soon as we end the public hearing. So, seeing no more public comment, resolution to close the public hearing. Remove. second?
If you guys want to do that.
Anybody? Second, discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed, so we close it.
Yeah.
5:45. Whatever.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. And for the workshop, and now, just so everybody knows, the workshop is not interactive. Someone from the board could ask a question of you, but this is more just for the board to look at. So the first item, of course, is the preliminary budget. I've said a lot already. What kind of reactions and concerns and discussions do you guys want to have about it at this point?
I would just say that, in my opinion, the 16% increase on the health insurance is a 911, and now we have options in front of us, and I think we need to treat it that way, and get this in front of all the town employees ASAP, so they can review. It'd also be a savings to them, so that we can move forward. I'm not comfortable moving forward with anything until we get that ironed out.
I'm in favor of trying to schedule an actual meeting for Monday or sometime before our next, so that we can see what the reaction is and try to come up with a solution for this. I know we have till December 1st, but, I think, I agree, we get it as soon as we can out to them, and then, see what we can do with it. I mean, it can't hurt to try, because it will be significant, and these are pretty good, each and every one of
They're
them
great
has
plans.
merit, yeah.
They're great plans.
So I think that would help them as well.
By the way, what we're looking at is a spreadsheet that Shelley and Steve worked on, and we're not sharing it because it's still a working document. But, okay, thank you for that
Is
comment.
it possible, we normally have a Monday, Thursday. I personally, I don't know about you guys, but would be willing to meet on a Monday if that would give Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, most of the day for, we get this right away to the workers and then see what we can do. If we can, great. If we can't, we try.
Monday's my bridge night, but I'll give it up, since I don't know how to play bridge.
Or you forgot.
Maybe.
I can't remember if I forgot. That's my story.
I agree. I think, we get this to employees, and we try to make it happen so that everybody wins. And if it's because we're too lazy to do it between now and Thursday, then shame on us and shame on them. I mean, I've negotiated sometimes till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not afraid. We can get it over with.
And I just throw this out there, I'm very well versed in health plans. I have no dog in this race, as everybody knows. And if anybody has any questions ever on these things, like I've been through it all with multiple companies. What we've come up with here is legit, it's better for multiple reasons. The number one reason being that there's out-of-network coverage, so if anybody ever got needed care outside of New York State, you're covered. And currently you don't have that. So, like I said, these increases are not sustainable. Absolutely not. 16% is outrageous. And it's not fair to the employees or the town.
All right, all very well said. So it would require the following, in my opinion. First of all, for us, at least 4 of us, and we can run it by Terry, to agree on which option or options we would present to the employees. In my opinion, I think it should be more than one, like a prioritized list. Let's say this is the one the town board thinks is the best option, and maybe 1 or 2 alternatives. That's how I would go about it, but obviously it's a good decision, so that they have at least more than one to look at, and not just the one that we think is best.
Yeah, I agree with that. Here's what I would say. I would say with the HSA being part of what exists today, we leave that the option 3, which would actually benefit the town employees quite a bit. If we do option 2, you take away the HSA, it'd be with no HSA. If those would be the 2 options we would present. That's my opinion, based upon, and it would get us the savings we're looking for as well.
Steve, could you just explain, I mean, I've talked about it a lot, but what HSA is,
Yeah,
why
so
we pay it?
my understanding is the current contract, the town employees are given $3,500 a year to cover the deductible that's on their current plan. The one option here has no deductible. The other option has, this is from talking in family terms, just so you guys know, The other option is a $1,550 deductible, okay? So, again, leaving a $3,500 HSA in place would highly benefit the employee, and I think it's more than fair. That's why I say, because if we don't want to change the contract, the way, because we're already kind of hopefully at the end of that, then we would do option 3, or they could have option 2, but they would lose HSA. That's just, it's the only way it would even make anything make sense for anybody at that point.
Okay, so your preference would be option 3, Univera, number
Yes.
1, and what was number 2? Is it possible?
Option 2, but they would lose their
Option 2,
HSA.
Univera?
But there could be no HSA with
There's no
it.
deductible
There's no deductible.
with
So-
option 2.
Correct. But there would have to be no HSA at that point. That's why I kind of don't know if we want to go down that road, because I don't think, personally, I don't know. Again, this is not me personally. Me personally, I would just say, let's just leave things alone, but I think if we're going to present a second option, we have to take away the HSA, otherwise this is a moot point and we're wasting our time.
Okay, so your position is Univera option 3, and if we do Univera option 2, take away the HSA?
Correct.
Are any of these, I know I talked to Shelley about this, are any of these plans, is it locked in for 2 to 3 years, or none of them?
1 year.
So we're subject, next year we could be going through this whole thing again.
We could, but I think we all know a little bit easier way to navigate this next year.
Okay.
Right, but Univera is a huger pool, so basically like
Okay.
everybody's.
It's
in
a
the
way
one
bigger,
pool,
it's a
and-
way bigger network than the current MVP.
Okay, so anybody else on an actual option to discuss and preference, as you look at it in comparison?
I say we get it, yeah, get it to.
Okay.
Employees as quickly as possible.
You're okay with option 3? What about you?
I'm good with option 3.
Okay, I have concerns about option 3. And they may be moot, or they might not be. If I was an employee and I was paying $200 for inpatient now, under the current plan, I would have $1,000 copay under this plan. That's where they save their money. It's also similar to annual out-of-pocket maximum. The maximum under their current plan is $5,000, the maximum under this option 3 would be $10,000. So I don't think that's where I would go. I
Because
think,
of
let me
the
just finish my thought.
HSA.
Let me
Yeah.
just finish. Well, that's a huge HSA to cover
Yeah, it
those
is.
differences, and
Yeah.
it's unpredictable. One employee may benefit and not have to go to the hospital at all, another one may lose a lot of money.
Right,
The other thing is,
Well,
I think
hold
with
on,
option-
hold on.
I let you guys speak.
Well, hold
Let
on,
me
you're
finish my
it's
conversation here.
misinformation.
No, I'm
It's
not.
misinformation.
I'm telling you
The
exactly what it
deductible
says
is
here, and if you're
$1,500. The deductible is $1,550, so nobody's gonna be out of pocket
I'm
that
talking
much.
about annual out-of-pocket
Correct,
maximum.
so
You're looking at the bottom line.
you'd have to have 10 people in your family go past the 1,550 deductible. So that's wrong. You have to have 10 family members that went past, that follow it.
In the annual out-of-pocket maximum.
Correct. The only way you would get there.
Number of children would factor in.
Correct.
So we're gonna start analyzing each of the family members and deciding
Just
whether
saying,
this
but
is
you would
the
need to
best
have
plan.
10 kids to make that even
Well,
be
10
available.
people in your family.
Correct.
Right. Well, I'm just telling you, so if you're looking at it as someone who's currently paying, as an example, $200 for inpatient hospital, and then it's $1,000 copay under this plan.
Yep.
I do not think option 3, option 3 is a huge savings of money up top. And if you're not sick, option 3 looks pretty good. In my opinion, it's not the best option.
which one do you like?
Well, I think, first of all, I think if you don't just look at the amount that we saved in the top 4 to 5 lines, I think you have to look down and see, as an employee who's receiving this benefit, what the other things that could occur. Now, obviously, the annual deductible is a good point, so several of them don't even have that. But I think also, if you look at option 1 under Univera, you'll save the town less money probably, but you're also probably not breaking the bank if, for instance, there's inpatient care. This one goes from 200 to 500 as opposed to 1,000. So I just don't think we're done discussing which one's the best, but I'm one voice of 4 right now.
You
And I'm
but you
telling
also
you,
have
my
HSA money.
concern is that we're gonna try to come up with a board decision And the employees will not have enough time to go through this in a good order.
So,
That's my concern. And the people who can answer these questions aren't me and Steve and Shelley, although we can do our best. It's the actual plans, and they then are gonna go out and see if they, you know, their doctors are in the network and all those things that make people decide whether or not they like the plan.
And I just have another question about these plans. So option one, there's no annual deductible, same with option two.
Yeah,
So we would pull the HSA then for each of those? Or would we
that's what Steve
continue?
said.
We would get the HSA back.
But if we went with option three, we would have the 3,500 HSA.
They would
No,
have
no, no,
the thirty-five
Correct,
hundred,
but-
pay the 1,550.
I think that there's a misunderstanding between how, the out-of-pocket minimum or maximum.
Maximum.
You look at the deductible amount before you think about how many people
No,
you have to have in your
good
family
point.
to get there.
Good point.
I mean, you'd have to have a lot of people in your family to ever spend that much $20,000 because you have a $1,500 deductible. So how the hell are you gonna ever spend
Well-
$20,000? You have to have catastrophic problems in your family. You have to go to the hospital 40 times.
Okay.
Or I
I'm
see what
not,
you're saying.
I'm not.
And it has to be
doesn't-
spread out over all family members, not just one. If you have one family member
Exactly.
you have one
Yeah,
deductible.
it's that deductible.
Right.
So you'd have 4,000 for one, 10,500, and then 20,300.
Right.
So where it adds up though, and I think it's still a very important line, I know it jumps out at me, the out-of-pocket maximum is inpatient hospital. So how do we respond to that? 200 versus 1,000? And now that's starting to add up, and the cap is now, if a
Well,
family,
but
$20,000.
But you're having an extra $2,000 from your HSA.
Right, but you could go all the way up to 20,300 for a family, and 1,000 copay for.
But you still got to factor in the deductible.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you have, again, how do you get to $20,000 in expenses when you have a $1,550 family deductible? You need a lot of family members, a lot, and a lot of business. That's all I'm saying. You need to take a lot to get there.
So the premium amount would come into play too, because significantly, so that if we didn't have the HSA, then employees could put a little bit of that premium money that they're saving into a savings, so that they would have that, so we should figure that.
I hate to say it, but one hospital trip to these guys, if they're out of the state, they're gonna be in worse shape.
No, I like that. actually. I
just
like
saying.
that.
Right, but that would be
That's
a
a
good
really good
comparison to
Just saying,
show.
like, they're screwed right now.
It would, if I'm saving $500 a month in a premium, and I'm able to put it into an HSA on my own, into some kind of interest-bearing
Sure.
checking account, whatever, that would be a benefit to
I'm
me,
just saying,
we
but-
we haven't talked
The
about that.
out-of-pocket maximum is almost a moot point if you look at the deductible. That's all I'm saying. Because you would have to have a hell of a large family to make it matter. That's all
Well, it
I'm
would
saying.
start to kick in before a very large family, just wouldn't necessarily get up to the maximum. You can see, with a family of
Say you're paying $500, you
four or
have
more,
to pay
you know,
only $50.
it just it would have a harder time getting to the
Don't,
maximum.
and the guys pay 10% or 15%.
So if that was
So that's-
reduced, should it be of their salary?
Of the total,
Getting raised working for the state. So we pay
so we,
almost $1,000 was the family, but
they pay
this isn't, I mean, some of this is, I think that would be something they'd wanna know. I mean, what do you pay now versus what the premium would be important to me as an employee? What am I paying now and how much am I gonna save? And if I'm gonna save some,
Sure.
then that's gonna make a difference to me on what my, maximum is, because then I can control it myself to a certain degree. So if I can save it and I take care of myself and, you know, watch out, and then you got Joe Schmuckatelli who weighs 800 pounds and it can't see straight and doesn't take care of himself and blah, 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 you're paying for his premium. So, I mean, I think that's something we could pull together fairly quickly, what are the premiums, and to individualize it a little bit would be more of, instead of bickering about stuff that we really can't do, make it individual for the employees so that they know exactly what it would be for them out of pocket. That's what I would wanna know.
Fair enough.
I know that,
My next best option is option 2, Universe, so I'm not too far away from you on that. You're saying that's your option 2. That's what I recommend, option
Yeah, that looks halfway a little
What
in
did
the
you say,
middle.
Harold? I'm sorry.
I mean, I've seen this game in car insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance, and if you don't stay on them every year, they just bump it up, bump it up, bump it up. Now, what we did, and three of us were on the school board at the time, we gave them a plan that was gonna save them a lot of money, save the taxpayers a lot of money, and he had one guy who couldn't get a foot doctor, which I'd love to shove my foot right up his ass, and he shut down the whole process. Now, that was a big plan, that was 65 to 70 some people. And that would have saved a lot of money, $1 million something right off the bat. And he got one dickwad, I'll call him, that decided that he didn't want to do it, and he talked all the other clowns into the circus. And you know what? Taxpayers got screwed. I'm gonna do what I can for the taxpayers. I'm here for the taxpayers, I was there for the taxpayers, but the problem is there's all this circling around, circling back. I don't want to join a socialistic situation, and that's where we're heading. And I think we have, according to the contract, the right to pick their insurance as long as it's comparable or better. And this is comparable or better. It was the same thing over there. But somehow it got all twisted up, and then people were coming in and taking personal shots at him, saying that Burger King food is going to kill you. I mean, literally, she said that after she had written him a letter saying that she appreciated the stuff that he did for the school. And I'm tired of the bullshit. I'm tired of the bullshit. Let's just all look at it, find out what's right, and just stink and do it, right?
Well,
Just stink and do it. Don't
this is not just
play
good
the
for
game.
it's not just good for the taxpayer, it's also good for the town employee, because quite frankly, the town employees are getting raped at 16% increase.
Right. And that's where I was getting to.
Okay.
Then, guess what happened? Last year, and the year after we put them on the coals, the insurance company raised their thing 1%, and everybody else in the consortium went up to 15, 16. You know why? Because they were held to the fire. And that's all you gotta do. You gotta determine who's more important, our taxpayers or the stinking insurance companies. And there's only a few people I don't like. Politicians, which unfortunately I'm part of, frickin' insurance places, and lawyers. Those are the three. If we could get rid of all that, we could save the frickin' world instead of going towards New York City bullshit. And you know, I hate to say it out here, but that's where we're at.
I've been watching the news.
Well, look, first of all, hopefully everyone here knows that the three of you had that whole experience on the school board, and it was over health insurance, and you're very versed in this, and I appreciate your insights. And again, I want to acknowledge the work that Steve and Shelley did to get us to this point. Here's a recommendation. I think particularly we take option 2 and option 3 of Univera, have you run the numbers, because one of the things we didn't do, and we can now, is look at the bottom line. Okay, this is how much it would save, again, assuming, you know, we're not trying to track how many people are going to the hospital in each family, but just assuming the bottom line cost to the town for those two options, cost to the employees, and showing the difference, and it'll be significant. Whether they're comparable, in quotes, I think is the question. And we're trying to achieve that goal. Less cost, comparable coverage. And I think there's some debate there, I think especially with option 3, but I'm one voice. But I think we can move to getting, and then maybe have a meeting on Monday. Here's how it goes. If we have an actual board meeting, we have to make notice like yesterday.
Can we make it a play date?
We
like
can,
this, where
well,
we argue?
here's what we can do, we can post it tomorrow. And it's sometimes you make it, 72 hours ahead of time, sometimes you don't. And it could be posted as soon as
How
tomorrow.
do you want me to post it?
The bottom line is you gotta put something on the door and the website and on the countertop, and if, you won't be able to get into the TV news in time, because they're already past the deadline for Monday. You can't really, if you wanna have it to be another workshop level meeting where we're talking about it like this, it has to be open to the public, it has to be given public notice.
I think that's a
So maybe,
responsible thing
I
to
think
do.
the rule is 72 hours, so we could try to make the meeting Tuesday. All right, I'll get that number and we'll decide as soon as possible, maybe we meet Tuesday rather than Monday.
And is there any way, and I don't know why this can't happen, this is a small group, that we can bring those 5 people in with us and make a decision, and just get it over with, instead of this back and forth with some dickhead lawyer in the middle, or union guy in the middle. I was in a union for 30 years, I never used them. You know why I didn't use them? Because I could do my job, and I didn't need it, because I could do my own bargaining.
when you guys
So
did,
I think that we're rather
well,
partnering
I'm
with
not
them
against
instead
that
of
approach.
this.
I'm not against that approach. Do you think the board should come up with the top two options first and then have a meeting? Or do you think that we should meet, the very next meeting should be with all the employees that this is subject to? The concern I have is I'm not gonna be able to answer a detailed question about a medical plan, nor are you, I mean, when you did this as a school board, did you have the actual provider come in?
Yes.
See, that's a long pole in the tent here as well.
Well, that's all nice and dandy, it's like me at the golf course, I wanna do something on my irrigation system, but when the pump blows, all of a sudden plan changes, right? That's the difference between a business and how business runs versus how government runs. Government runs slow, just like hospital time I call it. I'm tired of all this stuff. I'm 66 years old. I look at the shit and said, somebody stop the stupid. And they haven't stopped the stupid because, like I said, now we got a freaking communist in New York State mayor. What's next, right?
Another form.
Is that another point? Yes, but it all feeds down. As long as you keep doing this shit, that shit's gonna happen. Get the people in the room, make a decision, and go from there. And then we're being
With
held
all
by
due
a
respect,
deadline.
with all due respect, we don't need to bring in New York City's mayoral.
Yeah. You will when
We
you
have
have.
enough to talk about already. So having the provider,
Yeah, great.
and the nice thing is if we're homing in on 2 and 3, it's the same provider. And you're right, we could probably get it Zoom.
I agree
Just
that
don't
we
know
should,
how quickly we can
so
solve it.
I'll tell you right now, my experience, again, health insurance can be confusing. People get misled by certain numbers, like the maximum out of pocket, but I want you to look, if you look at the plan carefully, the maximum out of pocket is almost a moot point if you look at the deductible. That
Depending on
being-
family size. So there's
Depending on
nuances there
family
that
size, yes.
most people wouldn't understand. What we just said, well, I'm just saying.
I understand, but I'm just saying, you have to have, I don't think we have any employees with 10 kids, I'm aware of.
I'm working on it.
Good job, Justin, raising your part,
I'm
buddy.
doing my part.
You get 10 kids, I'll get pay your deductible. for the rest of your life.
I'm just saying, but,
I'm trying to repopulate
these are all,
this town.
I think that, I don't know anybody that would not be content or extremely pleased with option 3 of this plan. And I just being honest, better insurance than I have, means nothing, but I'm just saying, just, that's my point here.
Yeah, I think it's better than mine too.
It's very, very good. And there's a lot of perks, and there's things about it that are much, much better. Yes, there's some slightly higher co-pays, but they're also benefiting because they're keeping their HSA, and their HSA is much, much larger than the actual deductible on this plan. So, that being said,
Okay, now the HSA, if we have you run these numbers, you're saying on option 2, you wouldn't
correct,
recommend the
that-
HSA. But just, for her to do the spreadsheet, I think it should be included.
well, if we did option 2 with the HSA, we're wasting our time. Because there's no savings.
I don't know.
It's less $5 grand, I already did it.
You already know that number?
Yeah.
Because it's not apparent to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you don't have to do the calculation with the HSA, but after the math is provided.
I'm saying that-
Drill down and see what you're indicating.
The only thing that makes sense to even compare would be option 2, no HSA, option 3 with the HSA.
And then look at the premium that they would pay, is what they're.
Oh, absolutely, they're gonna get a raise right off the bat, yes.
Right, so that would be important, because it's the day-to-day that
That's
they're
true,
trying.
that's true, okay, but, I mean, their contribution is small in comparison to the town's contribution on it, but it's still money.
Yes, especially when you're raising
I get it,
kids.
I get it.
Right, Justin?
Right.
We're trying it.
So you want me to do it without the HSA on option 2 and with the HSA?
That'd be my preference.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we calculate both of them without the HSA, and then calculate, add one more line that shows it with the HSA? And just get all the information out there, and we'll figure it out. But I don't see we have to conclude it right now for the math.
Can we bring the group in even during work hours, right? Bring them during work hours and have a workshop or a shift session, whatever we wanna call it, and get their opinion and bypass the back and forth. Because that's the problem, is the state has put a mandate on us, which is forcing us in a corner, and yeah, we came to the table late with it, but we didn't know what was going on until late, so, you know, sometimes when you don't have all the information, things happen, and then you have to make plan B. And I've been making plan B my whole life, and it's not a problem. That's how you survive in business. You wake up in the morning and go, I'm totally screwed, now what do I do to make it happen? Go right? And that's what you do. Problem with state employees, teachers, and all this is the union who's stealing money from all of them. Stealing money from all of them. You don't need a union, but they are. They're stealing money from all of them. And they get in the middle because they have to. There's no monies for lawyers if everybody agrees, right? So that's why they have lawyers. They have lawyers because people disagree. And they can't get in a room and just talk.
Not yelling at each other.
Yeah. I speak loud.
When you had that play out in the school, did you actually have a joint meeting that had all the employees that would be infected?
We were kind of
We did,
blocked.
well, we did, but there was a problem because there's 3 different unions in the school,
Oh.
and they all had different things about their health insurance.
They were all gonna win.
Teachers
It
have
was so good
certain,
for all of them.
teachers have certain insurance, secretaries have certain insurance, administrators have certain insurance, and then the janitors have.
They have 27 different insurances for 80, 90 people.
And if no one cared if one
Yeah.
group had
And it matters how long you
lesser-
work there.
No one cared if one group had a
Which insurance you
lesser,
have.
System.
Yeah.
no one cared if one group had a lesser, not very good insurance. They stepped on each other like
Yeah.
fish at the,
Okay, so I just don't know if we're ready to jump into a meeting if we can't get the provider. It's only one provider.
let's try, let's see if we can call them tomorrow and see if we can do.
We'd have to make.
What do you have to
public
lose?
notice.
Money.
Public notice, get all 5 employees together for, a couple of hours.
Meet them during work.
I would, the
I'll
biggest
show
thing,
up.
I think the biggest thing to get out would be the link, the Univera link, the universal link, that national link, where they could type in their doctors, hospitals, and all that stuff. Because I was playing with it, typing in Strong Hospital, making sure that was in there. I was typing in the cancer place, Roswell, making sure that was in there. ECMC, make sure that's in there. So all those large hospital networks that we do concerned about, they're all in there. And then I even typed in like local doctors and like, Dr. Stahl and Middleport popped up. So they were all popping up when I was
So
playing
even
with it.
like independent health now, which I've had for many years, is now dropping Roswell. I mean, so our local people are, the local and the smaller ones are bumping people because the bigger, these larger companies are able to afford it. Bigger pools.
Don't go to Roswell, go to Cancer Centers of America.
I've been there many times. It's
Yeah.
a great thing. You get to the airport in a limo.
Roswell?
No, Cancer
Oh,
Centers.
Cancer Centers of America, yeah.
I'm not ignoring you, I'm just getting the information we need for public notice real quick. Notice.
Yeah, if we could meet with the employees during the day on a Monday or,
Yeah.
and explain
See
it
how
to them,
fast
that way they get to the and
72 hours in advance.
My irrigation system over there right now, so if it blows up in the morning, it's gonna be.
It's gonna freeze anyway.
72 hours.
Something about, you know,
It's always.
Even if we get it in tomorrow, it's not gonna be, when would it get to the behavior?
They don't have a publication on, is it Monday? No newspaper on Monday?
Veterans Day is Tuesday, I think, so maybe, I don't know about that, but I don't have
Well,
no idea.
well, we do, it's best effort, so 72 hours would put us at Monday. And we would post it on the website, obviously, when here knows, put it on the door and put it on the tabletop, that we're having a meeting on Monday. And question of whether we get Univera to Zoom.
What time?
That depends on when people can be available.
Monday at 5:30, workshop time?
Yeah, for the public as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can't be here then, it's my daughter's 30th birthday.
You've been to every one anyway.
Yeah, I think we'll,
I can't, it's her 30th birthday.
you should bring her here first, and then Harold can buy her food from
How
the.
does- Well, Shelley has a lot of information about what we need. What about Tuesday?
Tuesday's Veterans Day, so we're closed. I don't think people are gonna come in on, I doubt it. Well, we're closed, but
Okay, this is just a workshop though, this isn't a decision meeting, so if we have it earlier on Monday,
It gives us time to, if we
well, I'm
have
just saying,
to check
that
on
people
it.
can be there,
Yeah,
like 3:30.
I'll,
We could try to make 3:30 work, then we would still be
what day,
here
Wednesday?
Monday.
Oh, Monday,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine.
Monday, 3:30, and then if we're up to the employees.
I'm Susan Whiteland. I'm going to the Bills game. Might be all right.
And
you
then
have to change your
Univera.
plans.
I think I landed 11:48. I'll be okay.
All right, so public notice. Well, tomorrow.
I fear traffic control.
Meeting Monday,
That's true.
3:30.
I just wanna get there, I really don't care about getting back, honestly. If I get stuck in Miami, nah.
Oh. Great.
And I was thinking, if we can't get Univera, we can at least get Tanner.
When I asked him about that, he said that, he would talk to Eric, and if Eric wasn't comfortable doing it, they would find someone that could,
All right, so we'll go through Tanner to try and get some of that. Okay.
I don't know if they can do it by Monday at 3:30, but, of course, I'm not here tomorrow. So I'm gonna try to come in early and just make some quick phone calls and see who I can reach.
If we
Otherwise,
can help make phone calls, let us know, I can call people.
I've
And
got
what,
his,
and what thing you
No,
call
you
people?
can't call people. I will.
I'll go knock on their door.
I have his email address, I mean, his contact.
Yeah, their answer
Did I send it to you?
Tanner?
Yeah, both of you, I think.
Just CC us all in on it, and then we can let them know you're gonna be gone, but we can respond to them.
Okay. So, what I'm gonna do before we leave tonight, so I'm gonna put a sign on the door and send it to Shelley and Paul, these are the first job meeting.
And I think that's at least, you know, the intentions there. Okay. And the goal will be to obviously present options 2 and 3, answer any questions, if also you have time, and this could be by Monday, you don't have to do this tonight or tomorrow. But it would be good to have a tally at the bottom of those 2 columns that shows costs to town and the difference to the current plan, cost to employees and the difference to the current plan, and then HSA.
So employees is gonna be the tough one to determine, because, I mean, the highway, some of them have paid 10%, some pay 15%. So you want me to do it per employee? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's nice to have a summary, if you have to calculate it by employee, and then if you can add it together and show just the total, that would be the best way to portray it. It seems to me. Is everybody okay with that? That way we don't get into individual health plans
Yeah,
on a
So
spreadsheet,
that-
but she's gonna have to do it in order to come up with the number.
because they're all on different tiers of salary or whatnot.
When they were
So
hiring,
on the
whether
higher
they're paying
date.
10% deductible.
So
or
if you had
15.
3 on the same hire date, they would have a similar, so, okay. Yeah, we just do it based on hire date.
Yeah, we have one at 10% and two at 15%.
Yeah, what they did, yeah. But, yeah, I think, once you do this, I think every year, you're gonna have people coming to you, offering you better deals.
Yeah, I think.
And that's what
research
happened up
has
there.
been-
Even though they got screwed, the company dropped it to 1% instead of 16% the next year. But now they're gonna get them. Now they're gonna get them. If they don't stay on it this year, they're gonna nail them for probably 30% and say, hey,
That's true
we'll
both
get it
ways,
back,
though.
right?
That's true.
Insurance
both.
company's got time to freaking hang out, right?
I think we should look at this every year, this is no brainer.
Yeah, every year.
Make
No,
them
now
send us every
that
year.
the hard work's been done, it's gonna definitely benefit. Anything else on that? Give you some time to go do that. I don't know, if we need to keep you with the rest of
All right,
this meeting.
then
Sorry, if we need any help tomorrow.
Yeah, why don't we
I'm
swing
just
her
gonna
loose? Does
send-
anybody have a problem with that? Swing her loose, let her
No.
do some of that, and
No.
then we'll finish the meeting.
I'll work
Okay.
on the, spreadsheet.
Is the planning
I'll
board
send
still
an
meeting
email
here at
to
7?
Candace. What's that? Yes.
We'll save the world, Brady.
That was the hard
I'll
part.
save the
We'll wait here for you.
I'm trying to make it work too well.
Yeah.
In terms of the 5-year plan, I just gave you guys that. This is something we typically vote on. We could do it in November or wait until December if you wanna drill down a little further into it. But this is just going around to different, department heads, getting their updates. And, as you can see at the top, I've said as of November 6th, but when we finalize, thanks, Joanna.
Oh, yeah, I was just,
John, I
have a
took
couple
a shower
things.
before I came.
I have a couple things that I can give her regarding that to help them.
Thank you.
That, as of date will change, if we vote for it this week, we again can wait for December, but this is supposed to help inform our budget, and I think it does, but these are usually things that we haven't addressed in a while, kind of stuff. Any questions on that right now? Take a chance to look at it, we can talk about it, before we vote, and again, we can table it, but typically it would be in November.
I think the only thing I saw in here that didn't make a lot of sense to do is creating more space in this building.
Yeah. No, it's either rearranging space or something, but it is a little tight when the code officer and the assessor are both working and they have residents, one of them has to pop into here unless there's a meeting going on, so it is a little tight for those two, and that's why.
Can throw them in there.
We talked about that space as one of the places to convert, because we're hardly ever using the kitchen. You know, it used to be that the senior citizens would come here several days a week and then serve lunch.
What are we doing with the upstairs, anything? I mean,
That's something we should probably put on our long-term goals, to look at the upstairs. It's still like the last time you saw it.
Even at the elevator thing, one of those little chairs that you ride up and down, I want one of those for my laundry. Just, you know, that you, to make it accessible, wheelchair accessible is what you have to have. And a lot of those, I
Well,
don't
we
know
would
if
have to
there's
have, if
asbestos
we
up
can have
there.
an employee up there working, then we would have to have
I
that.
don't know if there's asbestos in there, or that was cleared out or what, but I imagine there's
It
some
wasn't asbestos.
nasty stuff.
When you tested
What was
the equipment, it wasn't from the ceiling.
The stuff from
I'm not so sure about the floor.
Right.
The floor's covered with a carpet, and
Yeah.
we would have to have it tested.
Yeah, right. I think that, they took the stuff to the.
Based on when it was built,
Yeah.
Long term.
pretty sure, yeah.
And-
Yeah, we can add that to
and
long-term
paint,
though.
lead paint,
Don't be wiping the walls.
I'll put in there, just second floor.
Sue's $50,000 donation.
Is that what it is?
Sure, a freaking thing to get upstairs? Hell yeah.
Yeah. It was only $750,000 for the one at the school, wasn't it?
with the little, I don't know where it went.
I'll call
The
it
one, it
second
went over
floor.
$1 million, the big one did, right?
Question mark.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they use it very much.
All right, next item,
Couple
investment. So I mentioned already, 26,000. It's spread across all the funds, so obviously the more reserves that we had that we put in there, the more those funds made money. The A fund, which is the one we really wanted to impact.
Yeah, somebody was saying something about moving cemetery money, more like some other
Oh.
CD.
Right, so it's just something we can discuss now, and then I can add it as a resolution this time or in December. And the idea is, since we moved the cemetery reserves over to the A fund, and they have a CD that earns less interest, and that CD is expiring soon, we could pass a resolution to say, now we want that to be invested in that class. I mean, I can make that note right now if you guys are
I
okay.
think
with
that's
that.
a
Seems to make
no-brainer.
sense.
No-brainer.
That's a no-brainer.
Okay.
We went through some other ones, that was the one that really popped out, and that's coming due, so. That was another Shelley fund.
Yes, Shelley is
Resourceful.
a godsend. Short-term rental law. So hopefully everyone had a chance to look at Andrew's feedback. I think the summary is, in my opinion, you have the option of going more restrictive or less restrictive depending on the town board's policy. It's the town board's view that we should be more open, or at least, not restrict short-term rentals or not. And if we answer that question to the positive, like, yeah, we want to keep it as a good option in the town and not restrict it. He said he could create a definition, so there would only be a couple places in the local law that would be tweaked. The definition of STRs, which isn't in there now at all, so we need a definition. And in the definition, he could include a couple of the core requirements, but it would not be a permitted use. And what that means is by right. Someone could do it because they don't require a permit. If they had to build from scratch, they need a building permit, right? But that's the building permit rules, not any STR rules. And the only way that this would be enforced, if we did it that way, is if someone complained and said, this STR was, is next to my house, and I looked at the local law, and your definition says this, and it's outside of the definition. He said if you go that route, it's much more difficult to argue in court, because the town hasn't articulated a law that requires a permit, which would have precluded those types of conversations or those kinds of issues. He also pointed out, and I hope this carries some weight, I know it does with me, that we have permits required for bed and breakfast and hotels. So if we're not gonna offer permits for STRs, I find that hypocritical. So I think we should still have a permit request. I talked to Dave Reese at length. He said, yeah, if you do a permit, one-time permit, $100, and at least you now have them on the register, and I can do the basic safety inspections, and they're good to go. And then you at least know where your Airbnbs and your VRBOs are. that's kind of a compromise I'm offering between just no permitting and no fees and no violation costs and what we had before us last time. So my opinion is to at least require the permit still, set it at $100 one time, and then at least have some basic rules that you can abide by and ensure that they have good, safe places. If you don't, you see, they gave an example, he says, you know, some of these cottages, you know, you can say this little closet over here, which doesn't have any egress, is your Airbnb, there would be no, or your place to rent, there'd be no town rules against it. So Andrew put all that back to us, he said, the board needs to decide where it is on that spectrum. Laissez-faire, or we're gonna put some restrictions in place. And I'm thinking a compromise might be, you still permit, you keep the restrictions within that section light, and we have just one-time permit. We don't do every year or every 2 years, like a lot of these towns tend to like it, it's every year, every 2 years.
Every year.
And that's just to bring in more money, and we wouldn't do that. We would just do it once, because that would pay for Dave to go out, inspect, make sure it's good to go. Obviously, the planning board would have a chance to review it.
So the onus would be on Dave to just every year annually just check them.
No, we wouldn't have to require that either. A lot of businesses and places, he just goes once
One
every
time?
3 years. Well, once every 2 years, like
Oh,
for
3 years.
businesses.
Okay.
And is it a business? It's not a home business. That's one of the things I asked Andrew. It's not a home business. Otherwise, you could say, oh, it falls under that in the local law. It's not considered a home business. Where does everybody stand on that? I mean, I'm more of, let's have a permit, let's keep it as a minimum, let's do it once, and then let's work out what are the bottom line, top 5 or 6 things that we want required within that permit, and hash those out, and then we have at least some minimal coverage, and we require something similar for bed and breakfast and for hotels.
I'm in favor of permit. I know these guys aren't, but I think that we have them for Airbnb, and we have them for hotel. I think something indicating that that's what they're being used for, and I think that we address the issue. If we don't have any problems, good, but if it starts to come, then we can.
I think there needs to be, I'm not saying there, I just don't love the permit thing, but I do think that there should be requirements for these people that are renting their thing. Like, we need to know that they have smoke detectors, we need to know they have carbon monoxide detectors, we need to know that they don't, have a bedroom in some unsafe area that you couldn't get out of. It's just, I struggle with a permit to rent your own, I mean, you don't need a permit to rent your house. I mean, you need a C of O, it's a one-time thing and it's done. So I guess I struggle with it being annual, for sure.
Yeah.
There are definitely safety concerns. I mean, I would like to know that, and I don't think that the restrictions have to be cumbersome, just life safety. But it shouldn't be any different than a C of O. I just feel like why is
It's
it
a good
why is the
correlation to C of O.
why is the
It's a-
C of O not good enough?
Because it's an existing facility, and you don't know if the setup that they're doing for the rental is safe. You got a CFO for them to occupy that 10 years ago, whenever it was.
Yeah.
If they all of a sudden decide they're renting out the back garage, the shed, etc., if it's an unsafe place, you have no knowledge of that if there's not a permit. But you're right, you're right, the CFO should have covered all of the safety concerns, but you don't know where they're gonna put them as a rental.
It gives us some leverage too, when someone doesn't, and we find that there's something horrific going on, or maybe not horrific, but something that isn't going well, we have some leverage then to say, hey, you don't have a permit, you're out, whatever. So people can
Well, we
hang
have to
themselves.
talk about what that is though, because what does happen if that
If we
happens?
have a permit that they're required safety, certain
Right, so-
rooms, people in the rooms, we're not having.
Right, but you call the police, what happens
I'm
if
telling-
they're not following it though?
Well, then the violations, there are general violations listed in the law, overall law.
So the consequence would be you can no longer rent a place out.
Well, we could put that in the local law, section, we could put it right in there. That could be a revocable permit if violations are determined by code enforcement. Well, why don't I suggest this, why don't I adjust the law to more of what you just described? It's a compromise to say a one-time permit and try to keep the actual rules to a minimum and run it by you guys again. This is something we're gonna vote on anyways, anytime soon. If we get to the point where we can hash it out, we can introduce it in December and send it to the public hearing, et cetera. I don't think we're ready to send it next week, because you guys wanna look at it again before we push it out there. So why don't I tweak it based on one-time permit, $100, and then try to get to the minimum of those restrictions that are basically safety restrictions that would have to be adhered to. Is that reasonable?
Well, I think what we're doing in life right now is we're replacing common sense with restrictions, right? People aren't smart
That's-
enough.
Right,
But isn't
So
that what
we're
the
saying
whole-
you're not smart enough.
or they don't
But
care.
Harold,
You
the
don't have
same
enough common sense, so
we
we're
have
gonna tell you
200
to
pages
do it this way.
local law that does that at every step.
Seatbelts, I didn't wear a seatbelt till I was 20 years old, right? Now all of a sudden, hey, if you don't have a seatbelt on, they're gonna find you, right? The old days, they thought heat detectors were the greatest thing in the world. They had these salesmen going around there selling these stinking heat detectors. 95% of people die in a fire from the smoke. They didn't try to solve it. Now smoke detectors are what? $10 and they last for 10 years, right? But now they say, hey, you gotta have it hooked into your electrical system. Well, what happens when the power goes out? Well, you got a battery backup. What if the battery's already dead? You didn't check it. It's common sense.
Do you wanna take off the permit for the bed and breakfast in the hotels?
I don't have a problem with that. You can take that off too.
So,
I'll go the other way.
I think we need something. I think he's just had.
I think I do agree that there needs to be the life safety, there needs to be something that says, hey, this is the expectation, but I just have a problem with the enforcement. How do we enforce it? And then, I think that there,
Yeah.
I would think we should just put the restrictions, I think there should be restrictions, because life safety does matter, but I don't, I just don't like it, I just don't want it to become over as an overreach, to where it feels intrusive. There's gotta be a fine line somewhere where we can find some common ground that just makes sense, that everybody's like, that makes sense, that makes sense.
Okay, so why don't I take a crack at it, and then, add it to the current one, down to what are the minimum restrictions we should have for safety concerns?
Could we just set, hey, these are the this is the town's expectation, and if you violate them, you could lose your C of O of your house. If there's a complaint, somebody complains,
But Andrew's
I
already
think
said that legally, we don't have a.
I mean, right now, if somebody's got 30 people in a one-bedroom Airbnb, right? And
That's my camp.
What?
Well, I like how you're bringing it back to the CFO, because that's currently the case. If there's a fire in a house, not STR, there's a fire in a house, and all of a sudden you find out people were living in conditions that broke the
Right.
CFO, yeah, it's the same problem.
If it's
But
tense, it's
we have
emergency.
nothing right now.
I'm just wondering,
If it's a business that someone's coming into thinking it's being
I
provided.
just wonder,
at a
how does the
certain
CFO
level of
not already do that?
safety, because you're not aware of it. You don't, without a permit.
But without a complaint, you're not aware of it.
You're aware up front if you have a permit, because it's been reviewed by the planning board. The
And
code
if you get the
enforcement officer
complaint.
will do an inspection.
So every permit's gotta be reviewed by the planning board and the
No,
board?
not necessarily.
So now we're gonna send Decrease down every,
It gets-
Lake Road
sometimes it's
and-
the code enforcement.
He said there's not that many.
Look at everybody.
They keep saying there's not that many, so why have it, so they can't be.
there's more than he thinks.
Right, so there you go, see, that was wrong.
That was the first time in my life.
All right, let me take a crack at it for y'all to look at. I didn't get any further, although Shelley did some great research on cemetery local laws. There are a good number for us to review of local towns that have them. Ours is obviously very limited. It's been written up by the town insurer. So for next time, the December workshop, hopefully I'll have those, maybe take and consolidate the best of what I think of those into a draft, but also give you the other ones that I referenced, and we'll all look at it together. Same with the FOIL law. We already talked about the union contract, we're close, we hope to have that, where it can be signed, next Thursday, but we'll see. I forgot to, double check with you, in the interest of time, just ask you to weigh in, or do it now, about the bootlegger historical marker in the town park. So, there was a
I'm in
proposal,
favor
I
of
sent
it.
it out, here's what it says. Tim Archer of Albion High School social studies fame was retired, but also still works with the students on special projects. Goes around and looks for these different things that might be good historical markers.
Buddy Timmy.
No, listen. And he discovered this part about the bootlegging, that it's somewhere around the town park. Obviously, some of you know this story better than I
They
do.
ran riot.
His students developed a draft of the proposed language, and it would cost us nothing. We would only have to approve that something like this could be made and then have the highway guys install it. That would be the only kind of in-kind cost of putting it up. And I thought it was a fun question, also an interesting question. It's a bootlegging operation that you would be recognizing, which has a certain ring to it, but also some people are like, well, that's celebrating alcohol use, or whatever. So
It's
you can go
historical.
right back to the Prohibition days.
It's historical, that it's unique to our area, it happened, so let's make people aware of it, it's a historical event.
So all the drug pushers after they legalized marijuana, which is.
Yeah, that's where they
right
all go,
next-
they go down to the town park, cause there's so much activity for
We were
drug
told
dealers
that.
down there,
We were told
right, right.
That's where we're-
That's where all my guys
Shane
go.
Price
You guys
did
wanna-
yours.
You guys want to table that and just let me know via email, or do you want to share your opinions?
I don't care.
I think it's cool.
I think it's okay. I think it's just kind of edgy because it's about bootlegging, but.
Harold sells
It is part of the
alcohol in
history.
his establishment.
Yeah.
I had some.
When he's open,
I had some once this month.
We're open more than anybody else. We're open at 9.
Everyone, any thoughts? I can get Terry's thoughts as well.
9.
All right, so
Saturday.
anything for the roundtable? Let me just summarize then. We have for possible resolutions of the budget. We won't be introducing the STR law unless we all agree via emails what that looks like. I could try to get it ready by next week and see
I think that one we can put on the back burner a little
Move it
bit
to
to give
December,
Ann
right.
time to come up with a,
I'll move it to
definition
December
and all
and
that,
we'll
yeah.
work through it.
I think let's focus on the,
There was the county's resolution they're asking all the towns to pass, which would say that, speaking of health insurance, that, if I can summarize it, that health insurance costs to municipalities have risen so high that in just the health insurance cases, we need to be able to exceed the cap.
so I think that we should propose a meeting with Orleans County legislators and explain to them what we're doing here and what we try to do at the school, and say, get your heads out of your ass, basically, let's review all
Well,
this
the
stuff.
issue's the unions.
Right, but we need to push up on it, because if it becomes across the county, it's gonna save how much money do we really have control over at this level? Not much.
That's true.
The county controls us, so we need, as
County can save a lot of
grassroots,
money.
County,
we need to
I'm
push
trying.
back on them and say, you guys need to do something about it, get your unions
Well,
to
let me-
work
let
with
me-
you, and let's get it done.
This is all great discussion. I'm thinking we don't support this.
Agreed.
No,
Let's just, okay.
nobody's
I
got,
agree.
we're taxed to death.
And I like your idea of a meeting. After
Yeah.
we get this resolved for us, we should, push back and get the other towns
Fight for your
involved.
workers and fight for the taxpayers, you can do it, and we are improving it.
You can have a win-win.
Exactly.
We're gonna have it with us.
The
Okay.
problem is the insurance companies don't want you to win.
And nobody's willing to do the work. Shelley and Steve have done a lot of work
Oh,
on
yeah,
this.
and it's been
And it takes some
awesome.
time, but once you get familiar with it.
Okay, the 5-year plan, we're just maybe adding a long-term goal to look at revamping the second floor. You guys okay with teeing that up as a resolution next week? Let me know if you see any concerns with it.
I mean, we can look at it, but that's it.
Well, yeah, long-term, that's all we're doing, we're looking. It's gonna be a cost.
It's a historical building, you never know. We can-
Cemetery fund, so this is a resolution that we agreed that the cemetery fund would be invested in I-class. And then there may or may not be, hopefully there will be, a resolution about authorizing me to sign the union contract. So as soon as I have that final version from John Post, I'll send it to you all and we'll go from there. And then, big note is, hopefully Shelley's had some leeway to get, or some headway to get us set up for a meeting on Monday at 3:30. Invite the employees, invite Univera, and if not, then someone, Tanner or someone else that can answer detailed questions about,
Can you
insurance.
let Roger know that,
I'm
can you
sorry.
let Roger know so the employees will?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be Roger, and, well, Roger's one of the people affected, so Roger's gonna have to be there
Oh,
too.
okay, well then,
so.
It's during their work hours.
I think it's notable.
They're done by 3:30.
I think it's
They
notable.
start earlier and end earlier, but Roger's usually working still, but the guys would have to know to. Say that.
It's okay. It's notable to say too, Tanner's original email in regards to these plans was that the option 3 November plan was comparable. Those were his words.
Well, I think, did you use the word comparable?
Yes.
Okay, good point. All right, let me see, anything else? I think that's all I got, guys.
You know,
Harold, you are rare form
I think
tonight.
so.
Well, there's no need to close the meeting, it's just a workshop.
Well, thanks for having us.
Let's check in with,
It was enjoyable.
we're off
a
to
little bit of
the
fireworks, not
right here,
bad.
right now.
Let's check in with Shelley before we leave, just to make sure we're not too far off base and change the meeting.